Today's episode comes to you in partnership with RotaCloud, the people management platform for shift-based teams. RotaCloud lets managers create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage annual leave, all from a single web-based app. It also makes work simple for your team, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, straight from their phones. Try RotaCloud's time-saving tools today by heading to rotacloud.com/Phil. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Patricia Dickie, Director of Customer Experience at the world-class Goodwood Estate. Coming up on today's show, Patricia tells us how she likes to start her days.
Porridge and a double bourbon.
Phil loses all track of time. God, how did it become 10 o'clock? I was supposed to call the wife at 8. And Patricia demonstrates that no ideas are off the table at Goodwood.
And so we put a full-size trawler at one of the entrances.
All that and so much more as Patricia talks us through her wonderful career so far. Patricia's journey at Goodwood is a whole story in itself, and she is all action from the get-go. Not only that, she's also come up with one of the greatest ways to summarise what a career in hospitality is in this wonderful statement.
Just an incredible bunch of characters all working together and just having the time of our lives.
A huge thank you to Patricia for really bringing the fun. One final thing before we get into it, and I know I go on about this, but if you can take 2 seconds to subscribe to the show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, it really makes a huge difference. Enjoy. And a huge Hospitality Meets welcome to Patricia Dickie.
Well, hello there.
How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you very much. A little hot today, but a lovely sunny day, but really on great form.
Yes, yeah, great form. That bodes well for what we're about to do. But it is, for context, we're recording this on the 5th of September and summer has arrived.
Hasn't it? Just as the children went back to school. Look at it. 37 degrees it clocked up in my car today. So, I mean, we could be on the continent for God's sake.
I know. It's great.
Ridiculous.
But anyway, enough about the weather. That's it's a habit on this show. But yeah, just tell the world who you are and what you do.
Oh, crikey. My name is Patricia Dickie. I am the Customer Experience Director at Goodwood, which is an exquisite estate in the south of England, 12,000 acres, and holds host to many things. We've got lots of big events, Festival of Speed, Goodwood Revival, Qatar Goodwood Festival, but we've got so much more. We've got an organic farm, we've got a hotel, there's Goodwood House, which is the beautiful home that sits in the middle, which is the home to the Duke and Duchess of Richmond and their family. And we've got a motor circuit, aviation. I mean, the list is endless. 2 golf courses. It's a really, really beautiful place to be.
That's one of those moments whereby we do a fade out and then we come back half an hour later and it's still. So we've got farm, we've got
she's still
we've got
going.
grass.
We've got sky, there are trees. Oh, amazing.
Oh, so many trees. So many trees. But it is I think on the website it says it's an English estate like no other, and I think that's actually a really wonderful way to summarise it, because having been, I've only ever been for the Festival of Speed. I've not been to any of your other events, but I mean, we'll get into all of the events, I'm sure, over the fullness of our discussion. But Festival of Speed is just,
it's insane,
incredible.
Isn't it? It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's the biggest one, and actually, it's almost too hard to get around it at times. There's so much to see, and it's taken a real move into sort of more tech. But it's it's petrolhead heaven. And it's right in the thick of, it's right outside Goodwood House. And it's huge. It's huge. I mean, as you saw, 50-odd thousand people per day, all the F1 teams, all the rally cars. It's where all vehicles come together. It's the very best in motorsport. It's immense. And in all the years I've been here, it just you never grow tired of it. You're quite tired, for sure. No. But you never grow tired of it.
Oh, I can only imagine. Well, we're tired and we're enjoying it. We can't imagine what it will be like to run it. But yeah, I think the thing for this, because I was there this year actually, and I was lucky enough to see a little bit of behind the scenes through friend of the show, Mr. Coggins.
AC.
Yeah, bless him. And that took my experience to a whole new level, seeing some of the stuff, just a little snippet of behind the scenes of what you guys get up to. Huge. But I think that the wonderful thing about the Festival of Speed this year was, and I kind of made a little bit of a joke about this to somebody recently when I couldn't attend an event because I was going to Festivals of Speed, and I said, I'm I'm heading off to Festival of Speed to do my bit for the planet. Tongue-in-cheek joke and all of that kind of thing. But actually, there was a really wonderful kind of underlying theme this year around the changing face of motorsport, what motorsport is trying to do in general to be a hell of a lot more sustainable. And Sebastian Vettel did a whole thing
he's
on
incredible.
that while I was there. And it was just, it was just really, really great to hear that, it is something that's being taken seriously.
I mean, the motorsport industry, it has always been at the forefront of kind of innovation anyway. So it makes sense that with all of the brains, the engineering, the technology within, that new ways for the sport and just mobility in general evolve. Synthetic fuels, the electric world has grown in a huge way in the last few years. So it's, that sort of innovation all coming together at the festival. It's really brilliant. And actually the whole estate has a real sustainability focus that they don't probably shout about enough. But to see it all coming together at Festival Speed, which is, I think, as you're saying it tongue-in-cheek, I'm sure some people think, oh yeah, sure, you're not going to Festival Speed because you're being sustainable or kind to the planet. But actually, they're putting huge efforts in across that whole industry in how to make everything from events to motorsport more sustainable. So it's fascinating, really fascinating.
Yeah,
lots of big brains involved.
Oh, for sure, way above my pay grade on that one. But but I did actually mean to put a little bit of a health warning on ahead of our chat, because we're obviously both from north of the border, and probably one accent will feed into the other, and by the end of the conversation nobody will be able to understand a word we're saying. But but the second is that we both like a chat. So let's see what happens with this one. But
how many hours we can go for.
Yes, indeed. But a big shout out to Andrew for connecting us in the first place. I've been super excited to have this chat with you. So let's go all the way back to, yes, bless him indeed. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of your career. How did you get involved in hospitality in the first place?
How indeed. My big mouth, probably. I was always, I think when I was, as most people do, when you're a bit younger, you take a job in a cafe or a bar, and still to this day, some of those early, even from when I was they called it glass catcher, a glass collector in a pub, still to this day, those are some of the best work moments I've had. Just an incredible bunch of characters all working together and just having the time of our lives. And when it started to move into, you should probably think about a serious career kind of conversation, I saw my sister at university doing pure maths and it looking just miserable, thinking, actually, I'm earning some quite nice money here. I'm having the time of my life. I might just stick this out for a bit longer. I kind of never really left it. Went to work in Glasgow for a group that had nightclubs and bars. And then obviously London, the streets are paved with gold. So I faxed, that's how old I am. I faxed my CV, yeah.
My God, I'm not sure I even faxed a CV anywhere.
All right. I started young. I faxed my short CV to the 5 places in London I'd heard of. I think there's Soho, Brasserie and Old Compton Street, but one of them was Atlantic Bar and Grill, which was Piccadilly, and Coast, which was a really cool restaurant in Albemarle Street, which was Oliver Payton owned at the time. Right. And I got a trial shift, which isn't something I had heard of before. So basically you had to turn up and work a shift, and then at the end they'd tell you if you had the job. So it was taking quite a one-way ticket, packed everything in a bag and thought, right, here I go for a trial shift at Coast Restaurant in Albemarle Street. I got the job, thank goodness.
Yeah, well, otherwise the story might have been different.
The rest is history. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just the London scenes. That was in 1990. It was 1990 something.
1995,
maybe 8. Anyway, the numbers all fudged together. And it was absolutely the coolest bunch of people. Certainly that I ever, my eyes were wide open, and I just thought, oh my goodness, this is just brilliant. And worked at Coast for a while, and then I went to the Avenue in St James's, which I've heard very sadly has recently closed its doors permanently. But at the time, it had not long opened. And I stayed in the Avenue group for about 12 years. And what a gang, we had Quaglinos just up the road from there. Everyone knew everyone. There was always someone you knew that was in a new opening. So we got into all the best new restaurants, very rarely paid for a drink. It was heaven. And then everybody partied hard afterwards. So, it was real heydays of hospitality. And I've got some of my greatest friends are the friends I met during that period. It was London was just absolutely buzzing. I'm sure it still is now. I just, I'm tired and my knees hurt.
Oh,
but,
no, there's nothing going on in London these days. It's pretty quiet, I hear. But
a couple of daytime cafes and that's it.
I completely hear you, though. And this is just so weird how this kind of stuff comes up. I literally, on the dog walk I did today, I was talking to my wife around the fact that I still look back on the first 5 years of my serious career, when I had my first real job, if you like, after graduating from uni, as if it's like such a fond time. I can't think of any negativity around that time.
No.
And it is all about, I think, the people that I was working with, and that you kind of were all piling in, working hard and making stuff happen and living together and dying together and, succeeding together and failing together. And all of these people that now I look back, that's 20 years ago. And I still look back on that first foray into the job world. I suppose because you're also quite impressionable at that time.
Yeah.
With it totally defined me as in who I became today. So it's their fault. It's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. It was the people I hung out with. I wonder if it's youthful exuberance or, obviously it goes without saying your responsibilities are a lot less stressful. In those days, we were flitting from one flat share to another. And, you didn't have to worry about where you were parking your car. God, you didn't worry about how you got home. And it just was, and also I think in hospitality, which is why it's such a dream, is that it's work hard, play hard. And the hours are weird. And you kind of let off steam. I remember there was a place in London called Down Mexico Way, which I think is now Hawksmoor. It was in Swallow Street,
right?
And it opened at 1 a.m. Upstairs opened at 1 a.m. and it was for all the people who worked in catering, and they only sold a vodka and cranberry, tequila shots, or bottles of Peroni. I think it was Peroni. That was it. And everybody went in. There was nothing else on offer, and it was some guy taking cash. it was as shady as it gets. Some guy taking cash for a tequila shot, and you could see, that's the chefs all arriving from Quaglinos, and there's the front. The cigar girls have all turned up because they were all at models. And we used to be called, I was a receptionist, and you were either a seater and greeter, which was a slightly charming name for it, or a door whore, less fabulous. But
that would stand up really well today.
Can you imagine? Actually, in fairness, it's kind of what we called ourselves. It was a bit like, we were the good time girls at the front desk, but it was just pockets of people from all elements of hospitality. And the one thing that we had in common was we'd finished for the night at 1, and we were all keen to blow off steam. So, and that's where you got to meet lots of different people. And it's amazing how even now I meet people from the industry who I didn't know then, who said, I used to go to Down Mexico Way. We all just used to gather there. But it was just it felt like such fabulous times.
I could only imagine the stories that you must have shared about the shift that you've just done and who we just met, and you wouldn't believe that complaint that we had. We'd never had that one before, and all of that. And it's just, but it's actually, it's probably its own little hotbed university in itself, in terms of the education you're getting from each other around this stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis.
Totally. And how to manage it and how to manage shifts. And, we're all, 20s, early 20s, and it was knackering. Nothing short of exhaustion. So, and in those days, not very many places opened for breakfast. So you had the good grace to not have to start till, say, 10. But of course, you got in at 4. Gosh, the thought of that now makes me feel slightly queasy. But it was, but how to, and then also you've progressed in a kind of community So you knew that there was a more senior role in whatever it was, whether you were reception, and it was a real art form at all the different areas. I'm sure it still goes on very much nowadays, but learning your craft without any tech. If you ran the reservations book in a restaurant, it was all pencil and paper, and you had the pages printed for the 2 months ahead. So if someone said, can I book in 3 months? You say, well, I'll need to take a note of it and hope it makes it back into the pages of this master book. And it was all about, how to space tables out, and if I can put those two together, I can turn 2 2s into a 6, and how to get the best. I mean, stuff now that's all done automatically, but there was such a buzz to it. And then you knew that there were different positions available in new restaurants, and that's how people moved around. And there was a real community to it. And I think that made such a difference. You could, if you needed to make a change, there was lots of people you could talk to. That's a really cool part of it, especially in London, because I think London can, for some people, I remember them saying London, they found it very lonely. I found it exactly the opposite. I thought it was just, so busy, so brilliant.
Yeah. It's just constantly alive, isn't it? There's always something going on.
I mean, completely. Brilliant fun.
Yeah. So from there, where did you go next?
I worked for Image Restaurants, which owned the Avenue, and Circus, which is now Bob Bricard, and Kensington Place in Kensington, and they had Launceston Place.
God, you are dropping some names in here.
I know. Well, that was all the same group. Launceston Place, and then the Brackenbury in Brackenbury Village. That was all the same group. And then we had a place called West Street, which really, I mean, the timing was just terrible. West Street opened, I think, the week after 9/11. So, and that was just a few doors up from the Ivy. So, and it never really, the world changed, and everyone was just, as you remember, the nervous about what was happening in all of our worlds. So going out and eating supper in Covent Garden was right at the bottom of the list. And there was the fear of what might happen in London and stuff. So it was just such a sticky start for the restaurant. So I worked for that group for about 12 years, and then decided that I quite fancied I had been doing lots of big events within the restaurant and made some great contacts. And a couple of people had asked if I would do events outside of the day-to-day restaurant stuff. So my then boss, who's still a lovely friend, was very kind and sort of said, yeah, you can, why don't you half and half? So I started doing events, set up my own business, and I did a bit of restaurants, a bit of events. And then the lady who'd been my mentor and the sort of doyen of London restaurants, Marion Scrutton, who's still a very good friend and is a legend in the catering industry, was helping the Duke of Richmond, then Lord March, set up the kennels here at Goodwood in 2006.
Right.
And said, my nickname was Marge because of an incident with margaritas, which we won't go into. And she telephoned and said, Marge, no, I just drank too many of them in New York.
Well, that's usually what happens, isn't it?
Yeah. Sounds really rock and roll, but I basically lost a day. But she telephoned and said, look, Marge, can you just come and help set this up down at the kennels? And I'd heard of Goodwood, but not really, I wasn't as in tune, and came down, got off the train and thought, oh, God. And in 2006, it was beautifully sunny, and it was just at the beginning of June. So I stayed for a couple of months to help out. I was only going to help out, she says, generously, for 3 days. But the kennels was this new private members club, and it was going great guns, and they just needed an extra pair of hands. So I got stuck in, and that was 17 years ago. And
you're still there. God, it's one of those.
Any minute now, I'll move on.
It's one of those the rest is history kind of stories. But we're absolutely. I'm not going to let you off the hook that easily, because I do. That's a long time to be with company, but with one company. But I suppose you've already kind of highlighted as well that in the previous company before you started your own business, you were with them for 12 years as well. And it's one of those things that if there's opportunity and you're still learning and you're still engaged with what you're doing, then what is the need to move on anyway, right? I mean, it sounds like you were kind of getting lots of different experiences in lots of different places.
Totally. I've never had a job anywhere in either of those companies that has been someone else's job before. So I've always kind of slightly created. Yeah, I've never had it. We've made jobs up and started them, which is an absolute gift because there's no rule book and you can slightly make it up as you go along. And as I think I was saying to you when we first started, haven't been rumbled so far. Well, maybe now.
Yeah, but you do know this is going out in the public domain, right?
What have I said? But jobs have just kind of evolved because, I definitely love this world, this sort of, customer-facing experience, hospitality world. And I think I've obviously just got stuck in and then dreamed stuff up as I go along. And it seems to have worked.
Yeah.
So, and Goodwood in particular, I really, I've lived at Goodwood longer than I've lived in any, and I live on the estate and in one of these beautiful cottages, and I've lived here longer than I've lived in any other home, including my family home when I was little.
Right.
So it really is home, and it's such an incredible place. So,
no doubt.
I can't imagine not being part of this.
In that little section there, you gave me the title for this show, which is "Creating Your Own Job" with Patricia Dickie. That sounds like a podcast title, actually. There you go. You can have that.
Oh, stand by. Thank you.
But yeah, so you started in at Goodwood with the focus to set up the private members club,
the kennels.
But how did you evolve through Goodwood then to now arriving? Because your title is Director of Customer Experience now. Is that right?
What about that for a title? Talk about a catch-all. Considering we are an experience business, it could basically be anything, which often is, which is what makes it so brilliant.
Yes, you are director of everybody who comes through your gates to experience yes, what Goodwood has to offer.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
My anxiety is sky high. We started when I came for the first, it was the opening of the kennel, so lots and lots of the work had already been done, and it was really just to sort of help out the great and the good from the press and the PR. And it's the first time at that point that Goodwood had done something that was sort of day to day, because the hotel, the Goodwood Hotel on site now, wasn't under Goodwood ownership at the time, or it was being run by a hotel business. And the members club, the Kennels, which is it's one of the most exquisite buildings. This was the sort of foray into a private members club and a restaurant and a bar. And they used to do really, and still do, amazing events at Goodwood House, really kind of mind-blowing, sensational events. But this was sort of day-to-day, managing a restaurant and bar. So I stayed for a couple of months just to get over the madness of an opening, and then fell in love with it a bit. And I think everyone realised it was bigger than we had thought. So it warranted me staying longer. And I had a flat in London and I thought it was super cool. And so I was a bit like, well, I'm probably not going to move down here, obviously, because I live in London. So, I could come down and help out every now and then. I remember Lord March at the time saying, well, that doesn't really work for us, so we'd like you to commit. And I was like, oh, okay. The ultimate people please. I was like, okay, sure, I'll move. That didn't take long. And was lucky enough to find this cottage on the estate, which was empty, which was just close to the kennels, which is where I still am because it's just heaven. And so ran the kennels for 3 years and then felt a little bit like, I feel like there's maybe something more, it was an incredible place, but it felt like I'd done it for 3 years. I wonder if there was another place to go to. We started, and we only did it for 1 year, which is a great shame, but boy, what a year. We held an event called Vintage at Goodwood, which was celebrating 5 decades of British cool. So music, art, fashion, film, design, food, and it was celebrating 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. And it was the most exceptional, it was the hardest I think I've ever worked. It's where I've got almost all of my good stories from, the ups and downs of putting on an event in a greenfield site. It was a joint venture, which came with some challenges. Anyway, it was incredible. So I was vintage at Goodwood director. And then after, when we decided we probably wouldn't do it for a second year, we took lots of elements of it, and they still factor in innovation throughout the estate now, things we learned, cool things we did. I then did, it was a bit about, what should we do with her now? So I did special projects.
Oh, I mean, that covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it?
I know, exactly. What will we do with this strange jock? Right, let's give her special projects.
Yes, we don't have any job for her, actually, but we do like
She's
her.
okay.
So
we'd
like to retain her. So
she can stay for a bit and do the dishes, maybe? No, I did. I worked
dishes.
on the bigger events. Director of dishes, cleaning, wiping down surfaces, the whole lot. And looked after some sponsors at Festival of Speed, actually, which was unbelievable fun. I looked after a couple of motor manufacturers and a watch brand in their first year here. So we were all learning together. And that was wonderful because for all the time I'd been at the kennels and then doing vintage, I don't think I'd really got out across the rest of the estate. So I was doing special projects. So it was anything new that was coming up that they thought, right, we could do with an extra bit of oomph. I got stuck in with.
Right. Could you bring your own creativity to that in terms of if you had ideas about something, you just kind of lay them out and
Definitely.
see if they're taken?
I mean, I think the thing we learned at Vintage was it was all about creativity, and that everyone is creative, really, if they're given the scope or opportunity. Or no idea is a bad idea. It's quite often in lots of businesses, definitely not unique to Goodwood, but you can think of all the restrictions before you think of the opportunities. We don't have enough budget, there aren't enough people, we don't have enough time, So it was quite good to just do the oddball projects that were new, because you could just say, what if we were to do something really amazing for a guest? What would that look like? And then you work it back to something that you can deliver in real life. And that's just been, and I think that's basically what my job is now. What would be really, really sensational for our customers? And doesn't it? It's easily the best job on the estate. Sorry to Andrew and lots of other colleagues, but it's an absolute joy. And it's tough because obviously what you have to do is not only, get a lot of people together, come up with some great ideas, but then, right, now how are we going to deliver it really well? And you have
execution.
Execution's one thing, but also almost convincing other people that this new mental idea is a good one. That in itself can be a bit of a challenge, but God, it's worth it.
Yeah. Isn't that's the thing that precurses all genius ideas, though, isn't it? Or sorry, it comes immediately after a genius idea, is that everybody around who doesn't understand what you've just said goes, that will never work. Oh, that's stupid. Or,
totally.
What are you kidding?
Yeah.
We can't afford that.
Yeah.
And
we
all of that. It's exactly
time.
what you just said, actually.
Yeah.
And
haven't got enough time, haven't got enough people, haven't got enough budget. Yeah.
But that's probably one of the, and I've never met the Duke, but I hear through the grapevine, and I know I'll have to be very careful here, that that's one of the joys of working with them is that they are so open to ideas as to what could we do that's just going to be amazing for people.
Totally. And in fact, Phil, even more than that, he's a bit of a legend. It's not just open to ideas, he's often the main driver.
Right.
And he's really, really creative, and he's a real visionary, and he isn't hampered by, ultimately when it comes to execution and delivery, we all have to put the old, oh my God, we've overspent, oh my goodness, there aren't enough people, all the usual. But he doesn't start with that, and that's why the ideas are so brilliant. Sometimes it's really difficult to come up with an idea without thinking of oh God, how's this going to come to fruition? And so he's so good at sort of saying, what would be the very best way to do this? What's the way that, and it's got to be things that are really genuine, and authentic and true. So there's no bullshit. And it's got to be, it's got to be genuine. It's got to mean something. Why would we do it? So he's very good at challenging everyone on that. And the detail, gosh, the eye is in the detail. I mean, it rubs off. You find yourself having the same slightly maniacal view of stuff. You know, I can see a wire. That's paint finish isn't right. These are the wrong shades. That's the wrong font. But actually, it's all of those.
Yeah, we're opening in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you crying again? Yeah. Oh my God. But that's the reason it's brilliant. You know, when you get all of those little details come together and people notice, especially you know, when you get the big events and you see tiny little details, people do notice them big time. So it's definitely worth doing them.
Yeah, but you know, there's nothing better than positive pressure.
Yeah.
Like, you know, too much pressure is not good. It's not sustainable. But a little bit of positive pressure just hones the senses, doesn't it? And just gets everybody focused on achieving what needs to be done.
I love that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to totally steal that. No, just that, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, through the summer season in particular, where it's absolutely at full throttle here. Positive pressure.
Yeah.
Positive pressure is such a
just use that in your team talks. Yeah. Now, just remember, guys.
Come on, guys. We could all do with
a little positive pressure.
You get a black eye. I'll give you positive pressure really fast.
Yeah.
But it, you know, you're
why are you throwing cricket balls at me? Stop it.
It's positive pressure. It's so true. You know, of course it is. You know, and there's a frustration that often you think, "Oh, I've nailed it." You know, I've been busting it on this. I've gone through all the details. I've really thought about the guest experience from the website to the car park to who greets them at the door. They're going to eat something delicious. They're going to see something mind-blowing. And then more often than not, the Duke will say, have you also thought about X or Y? And you're like, oh, he's so right. So,
or X and Y.
X and Y, yeah. So it's brilliant, and that's where it's constant learning, because you know there's never a dull moment. We're never sitting still. There's always ways to be better and improve, and we just always have to keep looking for them. So it's exceptional, a bit exhausting at times. So you have to learn to be able to recharge so that you don't fall over, because at times it's a bonkers place to be, and especially with a new generation. I can say that now because I faxed my CV, so it's official that I'm old. But there's a new generation.
Stamped your generational
exactly of people who maybe aren't used to. And I'm not suggesting that it's people of my age or thereabouts that are used to working hard, because lots of people are able to work hard at all ages. But maybe in hospitality, grafting long hours and lots of days were just standard. And nobody complained about being tired. You just got on with it. And I'm not suggesting it was right.
Yeah, I have a theory as to why this is.
Go on.
And this is just, I say it's my theory. It's kind of an under discussion theory that just seems to come up every now and again. And this is not to, I'm absolutely not marking our generation as the be all and end all and the dog's bits of when it comes to building a career. But you know, it's exactly what I was talking about earlier on with my first job out of uni. I've had so many conversations with people in their first jobs and whatever it is that there comes a time whereby you're surrounded by people who, and this is the key point, I think, if you're surrounded by people who care and surrounded by people who really give a monkeys about what they're doing and what you're trying to achieve as a whole, then when you're in that and you're in the middle of it, and you get it and you feel engaged with it, then it's not work. No. So it doesn't, you're not going, oh my God, I've got 4 hours left to go on my shift. You're looking at your watch going, God, how did it become 10 o'clock? I was supposed to call the wife at 8. Yeah. You know, and it's a totally different ballgame, because it is that kind of mindset of, if you are waiting for your shift to finish, then it's going to take forever. But if you just get captivated and caught up in the moment of what you're trying to achieve, then time goes, and that's the kind of I suppose the indication that you are where you're supposed to be. But the flip side of that is that if you find yourself, and I've been here early in my career, and I'm guessing a lot of people probably have as well, is that first moment where you are asked to do something that's above and beyond what you expected of yourself in that moment, that's there comes an awakening, I think, whereby initially your initial first response is, oh God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work another 2 hours. I don't want to be sent down there. And that you kind of have to go through these experiences to learn how to deal with that experience as well.
Totally.
So, and I think certainly from the outside looking in, and I know I'm ranting a little bit here, but there's an awful lot of people will not work through that now.
No.
But my message is work through it, because all the gold is on the other side of that moment where, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt, but a quick word to give special mention to our sponsor, RotaCloud, without whom this podcast wouldn't even be possible. With thousands of customers worldwide, RotaCloud is already saving businesses like yours hundreds of hours of staffing-related admin every year. It's been described by its users as everything from a lifesaver to an absolute no-brainer, with one customer even saying that they'd rather stick forks in their eyes than go back to doing their rotas the old-fashioned way. If you're ready to take the pain out of people management, I highly recommend heading over to rotacloud.com/Phil to sign up for your free 30-day trial and see how RotaCloud can benefit your business. Now let's get back to it. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now.
No, not at all. I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think maybe it's a sort of mindset thing. This sounds like I'm sort of bashing a younger generation. I'm not at all. I don't think it's a younger generation. I think that, people obviously took the mickey when we were working, asking you to do bonkers hours, and you were paid peanuts, and it was all made up in service charge. And now, of course, lots of rules and regulations are put in place to safeguard people being shafted at work. So that's all brilliant.
Yeah.
But there is a moment,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
From a care perspective, two things. I think hospitality was made for me by the people around me, but mostly above. So if someone was a really brilliant manager who set us up well for a shift together and led the team well, I mean, you were invincible, and you learned so much. I think I maybe said this in our earlier chat. You learned so much from a social perspective. You learn how to read people. You've got a room full of people, they're having a great time. He's got clients and he's trying to peacock a little, so you need to make sure you give him the due respect. So he has a brilliant, he can be seen to be the man in charge. She's got her in-laws, so she's made this recommendation. You need to make sure she feels as though it's been a good choice. They've had a fallout, so just try and get somebody to, it's amazing being able to read.
You can read that one a mile away though, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. What have I done? Oh no, it wasn't me. Result. And also that need to make people feel, everyone should leave a moment, whether it's an event or a restaurant or just even a cup of tea, feeling better than when they arrived. Then you've nailed it. And that can be anything. It could be because it's the most delicious cup of tea they've ever had. It could be because you've been absolutely charming and lovely. It could just simply be that, you were nice to them at a time they needed it. So there's a real responsibility, I think, in our industry to deliver that. And we get caught up, I feel that we get caught up in, the processes too much, and people need to put much more effort into just what does a guest really need? I mean, I could wax lyrical about it, but I think putting our guests first and then just cracking on behind the scenes as a gang is, maybe I just haven't been on the floor so much in recent years, and it might be that still happens, but you and I both talking about the heyday of our youth where everybody did care and it became self-policing and we all had a real pride in what we were delivering and we loved it when a service went well. I'd love for more people to feel that, because I think the industry would be full of rock stars if that was the case.
I could not agree more.
That's
absolutely.
Excellent.
We're solving problems here.
Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah, right. So, anyway, enough of the ranting. Back to story. So we haven't really filled in the blanks properly yet between the kennels and what you're doing now. That was all my fault because I just went straight to what you're doing now around your job title. But yeah, so talk us through what happened. How did it continually? Special projects, actually.
Special projects, and then
how did it evolve out from there?
Special projects. It was a really interesting time at Goodwood where the business was growing. Obviously, I mean, when I started at Goodwood in 2006, I think there were sort of 340 employees, and there's about double that now. And the business was growing, and it was also growing in the way it was being managed. So instead of businesses working individually, we were taking a kind of wider approach. So it meant that it was joining the dots. If people are playing golf, then surely they could also stay at the hotel and then maybe they could go racing, so it was sort of putting more parts together, which of course now feels like second nature. And so special projects was just new things, so innovation across the estate. Where are new elements coming together, and where can we not take risks, but just try stuff, well thought through, but, different, interesting innovation in different parts of the business. And so we did vintage at Goodwood, and that showed us, despite how hard it was in terms of just everything about it, it delivered some absolute gems, and we saw new audiences, and we saw that we were able to do things slightly differently. And then some of the projects I've worked on since then have been, exceptional. We did the 3 Friday nights, which is our big DJ racing nights at the racecourse. We launched the Magnolia Cup, which is this incredible charity horse race, all very women-centric, run by women for women and about women and female charities, which has raised over 3 million in the years that we've run it, since 2011.
Wow.
We launched Farmer Butcher Chef, which is our fully sustainable, basically the restaurant that sits in the middle of the farm. It's based at the hotel. It's this zero waste, fully sustainable restaurant with some of the most incredible food. It's just, no prime cuts, how to use every part of an animal. It's a real jewel in the crown from a dining perspective.
Yeah.
And then more recently, Goodwoof, the world's coolest dog event. See what we did there, Goodwoof.
Now you're talking.
Hey. And so
avid listeners of the show will know that I like dogs. So
excellent.
Yes, but I'm sure we can come back to Goodwoof if you wish at some point. But let's conclude proceedings.
So it was special projects, but actually it turned into I left to have my first Bambino, and when I came back, we discussed the role being new role, made up, create your own job creation. Was Indeed. That actually it was more across the board, and it wasn't always a new thing. It was maybe a new way of looking at things, or a new way of delivering something, or refreshing the way we do stuff. So it felt like customer experience was a good way of capturing what that was about. And so luckily enough, I get to work across all elements of the estate, fingering all the pies, and it's a dream. I love it.
Yeah. But do you know what? That it comes across for sure, because the energy in which you speak about that place is just it's infectious. Frankly, it's one of my favourite places in the whole world. I've come to it late. I've only really known about Goodwood for maybe the last. Well, actually, it's nearly 10 years now. Jeez. And that was only because I knew that I had to get my brother to Festival of Speed for his 40th. He's a massive petrol head, so I just thought that'll be a great. I wasn't really a petrol head myself until that point, and he and I went together, and it's just always a pleasure to return. And we haven't yet done the revival, and we'll now have to come to Goodwood as well.
Yes, God. What a drag for you. And now the door's open. There's so many more gems. So you need to come and hang out.
I think the amazing thing about kind of what you've just said about your role there, but also the estate, and just I suppose the total environment when you've got the right leadership who are visionaries, and you can almost come to them and say, look, every sentence that you have is caveated with, hear me out here. I've had an idea.
Yeah.
And you can come to the idea, and you're not going to get shot down. People are not going to tell you you're or maybe they will eventually, but they're certainly going to give you the forum to at least see if this has got legs and worth pursuing. And I think when that happens, Goodwood is an absolute walking case in point. It shows you what's possible when you don't set kind of boundaries on yourself.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot to be said for, what do you think guests would like as a consideration, but quite often all the cool new things that I've ever come across, not necessarily Goodwood, anywhere, I didn't know about them until I saw them. So, I do love the old Henry Ford quote. If I asked them what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse, because until he invented the car, nobody had a clue what it was. So actually a lot of it has got to be really out of the box thinking, real bonkers stuff. And it can get, obviously gets toned down so that it becomes something that is deliverable.
Yeah.
But it's great to start with. We have meetings in particular to do with revival, because revival's it's such an immersive experience, which you'll need to put next on the list. Make it down this weekend. It's like
short notice.
walking on. It's like walking onto a film set. It's all set in period, and there's loads of set dressing and so we have these theatrics meetings once a month all year, and the best ones are the ones just after the event, where it's clean sheet of paper again, and what random bonkers stuff do we want to deliver, and nothing's off the table. No one for the first couple worries about how much it'll cost. Is it even possible to build? How on earth would that happen? And so many crazy things have happened here that you can say, yeah, well, why not find out who owns that rocket and see if they can bring it? We decided to celebrate one year. We decided to celebrate 60 years of the fish finger.
Of course.
Nothing really to do with cars, but just because it was a great fun anniversary. And so we put a full-size trawler at one of the entrances with a whole host of actors on it. Someone was pretending to be Captain Birdseye. Loads of places sold fish finger sandwiches all around the site. It was just great fun. And you can imagine in those first meetings, we go, 60 years of the fish finger. Should probably get a giant trawler. You think, gosh, there'll be somebody sitting in an office in Slough, trying to audit their stationery supplies, and we're here coming. It's a joy. It's a really, really excellent job to have.
Yeah.
Oh, great fun.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly sounds like you're doing exactly what you need or should be doing for sure. The joy that it seems to bring to you is great, and then I suppose that's exactly what we're talking about as well. Now, I'm sure in moments it does feel like it's a job, but a lot of the time, you're doing stuff that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And then worrying about the stressful elements of that later.
Yeah. I think the whole of hospitality is a bit like that, Phil. I mean, having been in this world for all these years, these many years, it is hard work, but it's great fun. But you've got to have a laugh. You have to have it. There's got to be humour and wit and good people around you, or you'd break. It's not sustainable to do, this sort of graft unless it's good fun. It's not always. It's not like a children's television show day in, day out, but the majority of time you can find a giggle somewhere and good crack, and that's the bit that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I've had a lady on the show called Kelly Rickson. She's the current chair of the Institute of Hospitality, an absolute force of nature, has an amazing story herself, and I saw her give a talk to the Passion for Hospitality event one year, and she just she was giving advice from her career to the students who are coming through now. And the one thing that I remember taking away from her chat was find the fun.
Find the fun.
Like, it doesn't matter if you've been tasked with cleaning 100 toilets.
Yeah.
Go and find the fun thing about that. Yeah. That's down to you. It's not about you turning around and going, oh God, I've got to go and clean 100 toilets.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, how can I make this fun?
My favourite bowl. There you go. Yeah. Job done.
Indeed. Oh, please, somebody out there do that now. Yes.
Toilets I have cleaned.
Toilet reviewer.
Yeah. Oh dear. Do you know what? I'll probably get more hits.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of a business idea I had once, which was as somebody who often needs to know where the toilet is when he's out and about, and that's through a totally different story, which I'll bore you with some other time. I came up with the TripAdvisor for toilets was the idea I had in my head.
Yes.
But I was going to call it Shit Advisor. I thought that was quite a catchy name.
That's a court case waiting to happen.
And it totally is, isn't it? Absolutely.
Oh, love it.
Anyway, off topic slightly.
Off topic. Yeah, sure.
We've just been talking about fun, which seems like a nice segue into a question that I always love to ask everyone. Do you have a funny story that you can share with us from your career so far?
I've got loads. Most of them, I don't know at what time this airs, but I'm sure there isn't a watershed available. So,
no.
I mean, we've lot. I mean, the one, I must say, there was the one, I was thinking about this, I remember you mentioning, there was a really almost surreal moment at Goodwood. We did, I mentioned the Magnolia Cup, which is the charity ladies race that we do during Glorious every year. And the first year we did it, we decided, in honour of all the jockeys who were riding and to raise a bit more money, we would hold a ball at Goodwood House, a big party the night before, and people paid to come to the ball, and we'd have it was all in Regency theme, because the house is of the Regency era, so all beautifully candlelit, and there was a carousel outside, and we still do it, and it's one of the most beautiful events we do. It's gorgeous. Anyway, we had a band and a DJ booked for afterwards. And it was on a Wednesday night. It was due to happen on the Wednesday night. And the Duke called me on the Saturday and said, I've got someone to sing at the ball. I was like, oh, okay. We'd have a band and a DJ. Are we thinking another singer? Is there a space for another singer? Thinking, God, how am I going to fit this into the bloody timetable? And he said, yeah, Courtney Love.
Oh,
pardon?
Okay.
Who? Did you? And I thought, my first reaction was, I wonder if he's got the name right. It can't actually be... So I said to him, is it like as in the band Hole? And then I thought, is he even going to under that? And he said, yeah, Courtney Love. And I said, as in Kurt Cobain's ex with Courtney Love, like the American singer. Yeah, absolutely. She's over here. She's doing some stuff with, I think, Vanity Fair. I've spoken to a friend that had connected them. She'll sing. Do we want her to sing? Really kind of thinking, how on God's green earth at this stage, 3 nights before.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's possibly one of the most surreal 24 hours of the time I've had at Goodwood. It was Courtney Love. She was okay to sing. I don't know how we really managed. Spoke to her tour manager. I still, right up until the point that she arrived, thought she's never actually going to come. And we had sold tickets to the event anyway, the dinner. So it wasn't as though it was a Courtney Love gig and we weren't sure if she was going to turn up. But she stayed in Goodwood House on the private side in the Duke and Duchess's home, and I went to see her the night of the event. She answered the door in just her underwear, and she had a whole suitcase full of gold shoes. It was so mental. Anyway, she said, can I smoke in here? And I was like, absolutely not, this is the king's bedroom. No, absolutely not. No, come along the corridor. So I took her along the corridor, and so we had to go from the private side into where the offices are, and out onto the balcony so that she could have a fag. Anyway, so she's there chatting away. Some moments of our conversation were, I mean, she's a rock star. I mean, she's Courtney Love, for God's sake. So I was pinching myself a bit. Anyway, she got a funky dress on. She came down to the ball. She played, and she was exceptional. I'm not sure if either she or the audience really knew what to expect of each other. It all went off quite well. There was a couple of hiccups, some a bit mental. Anyway, the next day, I got a call from our HR director who said, hi, I wonder if you could help. It's quite unusual that she called. And I was like, yeah, is everything okay? And she said, I'm trying to have a team meeting here in her office. There's someone on the balcony outside my window in her pajamas smoking a cigarette. I was like, so of course the night before in the dark, I had led Courtney Love along the corridor to have a fag, and there was no one in the offices because it was sort of 8 at night. Course, and of course the next morning she thought, well, this is where I go for a cigarette. And you've got the HR team all looking at it. I said, that's Courtney Love on your balcony. Rock star. Totally unimpressed. And brilliantly, she also ordered, which I think is about the most rock and roll, she ordered breakfast in her room. It's not a hotel. You should probably go and have breakfast with your hosts. Anyway, she ordered porridge and a double bourbon. How cool is that? She poured it onto her porridge. And that was breakfast.
Oh, God, I might try that tomorrow.
I feel that should be on a menu somewhere. Yeah, exactly. How to liven up a cold morning.
Oh, God. I'm not a morning person at the best of times, but that might help.
Hey, want to try a double bourbon on your porridge and see how your day goes? Yeah. Well, hey. But I mean, that was just one of it was such a surreal experience, but it was absolutely brilliant. She loved it, and the crowd ended up absolutely loving it. She loved it. Oh, it was brilliant. It was an amazing event, but it was pretty odd, pretty out there.
But that sounds like that is exactly the sort of stuff that you have to deal with there quite frequently, is that the Duke could come to you in any moment and say, oh, I just bumped into King Charles last week and he's going to come and give a talk tomorrow at 3:00. And you're like, okay.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Right, quick, mobilize.
Yeah, but I love that.
It's stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good fun.
Fantastic. I'm a little conscious of time, but so a final question before I let you get on your merry way. I feel like you've given me so many reasons all the way through this chat, but I'm going to ask you to, I suppose, summarize in some ways here. What would be your main reasons why somebody should join hospitality as a career?
Oh, the people, I think. You know, with all of the tech and all of the AI that's coming at us left, right, and centre, people need people. We need interaction. The people you work with and the people you meet when you work in hospitality is just unrivaled. It stands you in great stead. It's absolutely what makes the buzz. We will all need to interact. You know, it's the perfect place that pulls all of that community and enjoyment. People don't go out to have a bad time. They go out to have a good time. You know, we're not working in funeral services. The reason for people dining out, drinking out, eating out is to have a great time. And the buzz from that, you know, is right up there. So it's the people and the sort of the oomph that this business brings is I've not found a better high. So, you know, even after all of these years,
it's legal as well.
Being able to deliver, or it's legal, yeah, depending on how many breaks you're given, obviously.
Well, yes, and how many bourbons you have with your porridge.
Exactly. Oh, those were the days where you could drink on shift. But
oh, sorry. Before that reminded me of a little story before you get on to the rest of that little bit that I've just asked you to do. But I worked with a guy who will remain nameless. Everybody that worked with him will know exactly who I'm talking about. But when I joined cruise ships, he was 3 rungs above me on the ladder. That's all I'm going to say. And he used to have a teapot sent to his office in the morning when he got into his office, and in the teapot was Carlsberg. But of course, if you look in the teapot, it looks like tea. So nobody ever used to question it, and he got away with that. Well, until he left his role of his own accord. So yeah, but
brilliant.
Yes, if you're out there and you're listening to this, you know who you are, and I love you forever.
They used to do in Soho after you went to after hours. If you went out there were a couple of Chinese restaurants in Chinatown if you knew who they were and you said, "Could I have a green tea?" You used to get a teapot filled with not green tea. You could dodge the licensing laws. It's a discreet dram in a teapot.
Is that a green tea in inverted commas, as it were?
Absolutely.
A green tea with a wink.
Exactly. If you knew who they were. Oh dear. But yes, it's a remarkable industry, and it gets a bit of a kicking at times. It's funny that it's everybody expects exemplary service wherever they go. As they should. We should all expect to be treated brilliantly if we're out. But it's a tough service to work in, and it's getting tougher. And so I feel like the responsibility to have a great night or lunch or cup of tea is everybody's. So I feel a little bit like, I rarely go out and have a bad time. So that's got to do with my attitude to going out as much as it is to the people that are serving me.
I could not agree more.
I just think people need to be a bit more generous.
Yeah, and we don't talk enough about this, and I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to change people's mind. If you're going to go out and experience a bad service, then that needs to be made aware of in the moment that you're in. But I think there's also a way to behave as a guest, right? I mean, that's
totally.
And I will always, unless somebody is really, really nasty and off with me, then they're always going to get the best version of me when it comes to whenever I go out somewhere. which means I want them to win and I want them
Yeah.
to have a really great service, because that means I get a great experience as well.
Totally.
But even if that doesn't happen and you feed back to them as in a nice way, it's just a much nicer place to be in the world. And I know that sounds quite whimsical, but I don't care.
No, I'm quite right. You shouldn't care. It's absolutely right. I do feel a little bit like also, I never ever understand people who are shitty and then expect excellent service as a result of their shittiness. Obviously, as you say, if something happens and something goes wrong, you absolutely need to address it. But if you do it kindly, you'll turn it around from a customer as much as a member of staff. And I do think, it is a tough industry and it's thankless. And there is a kind of arrogance at times around, it's a waiter, or it's just someone who was serving me, when actually it's incredibly hard. It takes a lot of, if everybody had to go into work every single day with a great game face and jazz hands, industry would stop. But when you're hospitality, you have to, it's all, you're on stage. It's absolutely, what's the phrase, tits and teeth. It's, you're on. It's my job to make your day wonderful, but please come expecting to have a lovely time, and we'll all have a better result because of it. But it's an incredibly brilliant industry to work in. If everyone was a wee bit kinder, it'd be better still, I think. But and it is a career, and that's the other thing I think is so frustrating at times, is that people don't see it as a career. It's a sort of stopgap. Well, if I can't do anything else, I'll just waiter for a while. Whoa, that doesn't count. You've got to want to do a great job. You've got to want to look after people, because actually if that isn't your desire, or you're not even vaguely interested in it, this isn't the job for you. So, it's and I mean, I've been in this industry for years and years, and I love it. And it's easily better, and I have a better time than lots of my friends and peers who have studied hard at university and gone into really serious jobs. Really, they're probably, they're earning not much or the same, and they're not having anywhere near as much fun or opportunity. So it's definitely worth getting stuck in, rolling your sleeves up. There will be hard graft, but it will be great fun. And if you get it right, it's knockout.
Yeah, and you're an absolute case in point for sure. And I can just imagine those meetings with your friends who went off into these serious jobs, that every time they come back in your company, they're saying things like, "Why are you always so bloody happy?"
It's the drink. It's the drink.
Yeah, it's the bourbons with the porridge. There we are. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Excellent. Well, look, Patricia, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been an absolute joy. I would love to spend more time in your company regaling more stories from your career. I'm sure there are many, many. I'm going to have to start a second thing called Hospitality Anonymous or something like that, and just get people to come in with their anonymous story, and we'd never know who it is, but we all kind of know who it is. But we all kind of know. But yes, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with the next phase of whatever it is that you're going to get up to at Goodwood.
Well, thank you. Come and join us. Come and see us.
I certainly will.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And there we have it. I think we can all agree that Patricia is absolutely doing what she was born to do. I reiterate my thanks to her for bringing the fun and energy to our chat. We'll be back as usual at 8 p.m. next Wednesday for another story from hospitality. So until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.